3,800 feet beneath the surface of Lake Superior lies a ship that should not exist. The SS Edmund Fitzgerald vanished on November 10, 1975, taking 29 men with her in a storm so violent that experienced captains still refuse to talk about it. For decades, the wreck sat in darkness, too deep for divers, too dangerous for exploration. The official story was simple: rogue waves overwhelmed her, she broke apart, and she sank. A tragic accident. Case closed. But in 2022, an underwater drone equipped with AI-powered imaging descended into that frozen darkness and captured footage that rewrites everything we thought we knew. What the cameras revealed was not just twisted metal and scattered debris. It was evidence of a structural failure so catastrophic, so preventable, that it turned a routine cargo run into the deadliest maritime disaster in Great Lakes history. And the danger that killed those 29 men? It's still out there, hidden inside dozens of ships sailing these waters right now. November 9, 1975, the Edmund Fitzgerald departs Superior, Wisconsin, loaded with 26,116 tons of taconite iron ore pellets bound for Detroit. At 729 feet long, she's a monster. The largest freighter on the Great Lakes, a ship so massive that when she was launched in 1958, she set records that still stand. Captain Ernest McSorley has commanded her for 3 years. He's made this run hundreds of times. His crew of 29 are experienced Great Lakes sailors. They know these waters, they know this ship, they trust her completely. What none of them know is that the Fitzgerald is already compromised. Her keel has been weakened by 17 years of heavy loading. Inspections have noted cracks in her hull plates, stress fractures near the cargo holds. But these issues are common on Great Lakes freighters. The ship is still certified, she's still insured. She's still considered safe, the paperwork says so. By the afternoon of November 10th, the Fitzgerald is pushing through a storm that veteran sailors would later describe as a once-in-a-lifetime event. Winds reach 96 miles per hour, waves tower 35 feet high. The ship takes on water, her pumps struggle to keep up. At 3:30 p.m., McSorley radios the nearby freighter Arthur M. Anderson, "I have a fence reel down, to vents lost or damaged, and a list. I'm checking down." The Anderson's captain, Bernie Cooper, offers to stay close. The Fitzgerald is damaged but still making progress. McSorley sounds concerned, but not panicked. At 7:10 p.m., Cooper radios again, "Fitzgerald, how are you making out?" McSorley's final words crackle through the radio, "We are holding our own." 15 minutes later, the Edmund Fitzgerald disappears from radar. No distress call, no mayday, no time to abandon ship. The largest freighter on the Great Lakes vanishes in seconds, taking 29 men into the darkness. When dawn breaks, searches find only debris. Life jackets, oil slicks, and a single life raft that was never deployed. The ship herself has gone to the bottom of Lake Superior, 530 feet down, split into two massive sections lying 170 feet apart. The Coast Guard investigation concludes that massive waves flooded the cargo holds through damaged hatch covers. The ship's bow dipped deep, water rushed in faster than the pumps could handle, and she dove straight to the bottom. Tragic but explainable, the families mourned. The maritime industry moved on. The Fitzgerald became a legend, immortalized in Gordon Lightfoot's haunting ballad. But survivors from other ships that night told a different story. They described something they'd never seen before. Waves that didn't behave like normal storm waves. A phenomenon sailors called the Three Sisters. 3 massive waves in rapid succession that could overwhelm even the largest vessel. The official report barely mentioned them, and for 47 years, the Fitzgerald kept her real secrets locked in the cold, dark water of Superior. If you're still here, you've seen how 29 men vanished in minutes, and how the official story closed a case that was never truly solved. Comment below if you're following this investigation. And if you haven't subscribed, please do so and turn on the bell notification so you don't miss what comes next. Your support helps us uncover the truths that official reports tried to bury. Now, let's talk about the underwater drone that finally revealed what really happened that night. The Edmund Fitzgerald wreck site is protected. Michigan law designates it as a grave site. Diving is prohibited without special permits. For decades, only a handful of expeditions have been allowed, each one capturing grainy footage in near-zero visibility. The wreck sits at a depth where nitrogen narcosis makes human divers unreliable. The cold is brutal, the darkness is absolute. And the families of the 29 lost sailors have fought to keep the site undisturbed. But in 2022, Great Lakes Shipwreck Historical Society received permission to deploy something that had never been used on the Fitzgerald before, an autonomous underwater vehicle equipped with AI-enhanced imaging, sonar mapping, and millimeter precision scanning technology. The goal was documentation, not disturbance. The drone would capture every detail without touching the wreck. What it found changed everything. The bow section sits upright on the lake floor, relatively intact. Her pilot house is crushed, her deck buckled, but recognizable. The stern section, 170 feet away, tells a different story. It's been obliterated, twisted metal, compressed decks, wreckage scattered across the lake bed. The ship didn't just sink, she was destroyed. The drone's cameras captured something no previous expedition had documented in detail. The hull plating along both sections showed a pattern of fractures that didn't match the official flooded cargo hold theory. These weren't tears from wave impact, they were compression fractures. The kind of damage that occurs when a ship's internal structure collapses under its own weight. Naval architects who analyzed the footage reached a disturbing conclusion. The Edmund Fitzgerald didn't flood and sink slowly. She experienced catastrophic structural failure. Her keel, already weakened by years of heavy loading and noted stress fractures, gave way. The ship literally broke her own back. She folded in the middle, her bow and stern rising out of the water simultaneously before plunging to the bottom in seconds. This explains why there was no distress call, why no lifeboats were launched, why the crew never had a chance. The Fitzgerald didn't sink. She snapped in half and took her crew down before anyone could react. But here's where the investigation takes a darker turn. When researchers examined the drone footage alongside the original construction and maintenance records, they discovered something that maritime regulators had been quietly warning about for years. The Edmund Fitzgerald was a Great Lakes laker, a ship designed specifically for inland freshwater service. Unlike ocean-going vessels, lakers weren't built to the same structural standards. They operated in calmer waters. They faced less scrutiny, and they were pushed harder. The Fitzgerald's cargo holds were designed for 25,000 tons. She regularly carried 26,000 or more. Loading records showed she'd been overloaded on dozens of voyages. Each overload stressed her keel just a little more. Each season of hard loading added microscopic fractures. The inspections noted these issues. The reports documented the cracks. But no one stopped her from sailing. The drone's footage revealed one more piece of evidence that sent chills through the maritime industry. The fracture pattern on the Fitzgerald's hull matched fractures found on other Great Lakes freighters still in service. Ships built in the same era, loaded the same way, inspected under the same regulations. The AI analysis compared the Fitzgerald's structural damage to public inspection records of active vessels. The correlation was undeniable. There are ships sailing Lake Superior right now with the same hidden weaknesses that killed 29 men in 1975. After the Fitzgerald disaster, regulations were tightened. Hatch covers were improved, loading procedures were reviewed. But the fundamental problem was never addressed. Great Lakes freighters are still being pushed to their structural limits because the economics demand it. Iron ore is heavy, shipping companies maximize profits by maximizing loads. And inspectors can only check what's visible. The keel stress fractures that doomed the Fitzgerald developed internally. They weren't visible from the outside until it was too late. Modern ultrasound technology can detect them, but comprehensive structural surveys are expensive and time-consuming. They require dry docking the vessel, losing operational time, potentially finding damage that would force costly repairs or retirement. The question no one in the industry wants to answer is simple: how many other ships are sailing on borrowed time? The Great Lakes Shipwreck Historical Society has cataloged over 6,000 shipwrecks across the 5 lakes. Most are from the 19th and early 20th centuries, but the Fitzgerald was modern. She had radar, radio, experienced crew, and she was supposedly built to last. She sank anyway because the stresses she endured every season were slowly tearing her apart from the inside. The 29 men who died aboard her trusted the certifications, they trusted the inspections. They trusted that someone, somewhere in the chain of command, was making sure the ship beneath their feet was safe. That trust was misplaced, not because anyone was malicious, but because the system itself was and remains inadequate. The Edmund Fitzgerald lies into pieces at the bottom of Lake Superior. The underwater drones footage has been archived, analyzed, and shared with maritime safety boards. The families of the 29 lost sailors finally have a more complete picture of what took their loved ones. But the dangerous truth the drone revealed extends far beyond one shipwreck. The Fitzgerald wasn't sunk by a rogue wave or a perfect storm. She was sunk by cumulative stress, deferred maintenance, economic pressure to overload, and a regulatory system that couldn't catch hidden failures until they became catastrophic. That combination hasn't disappeared. It's still out there, in every aging freighter pushing through these waters, with holds packed beyond their original design limits. The iceberg didn't sink the Titanic alone, substandard rivets did. The bow visor didn't sink the Estonia alone, ignored warnings did. And the storm didn't sink the Edmund Fitzgerald alone, years of structural compromise did. History doesn't repeat itself, but it echoes. And right now, somewhere on the Great Lakes, there's a ship carrying cargo, carrying crew, carrying the same hidden fractures that killed 29 men in 1975. The question isn't whether we've learned the lesson. The question is whether we lines act on it before the next ship disappears from radar with no warning, no mayday, and no time to say goodbye. The Edmund Fitzgerald's final message still haunts these waters. We are holding our own, until they weren't. The underwater drone showed us why. The rest is up to us. The Edmund Fitzgerald disaster continues to haunt the Great Lakes 49 years later. If this investigation left you with questions, share your thoughts in the comments below. Subscribe for more stories where technology finally uncovers what official reports tried to close. And stay tuned, the next video on your screen reveals another maritime mystery where the truth waited decades to surface.